Take a deep breath. Deep conversations are starting.
Hello, welcome to Deep Conversations with Breath Hub by Nevşah. I have a great woman in front of me. So this time it's a different environment. We're not sitting next to each other.
Indeed.
We're still sitting in front of each other.
That's nice.
It's a bit more challenging, huh? Because we're going to go deep and we're just facing each other. So as always, I'll let you introduce yourself and then we'll go deep.
Thank you. So my name is Jessie Laute and I am a breathing and well-being coach. So I support people day to day with their breath work and general well-being, just to help them improve their lives and just feel better in general.
Yeah. So I know you more work one-on-one, and I also know you enjoy working with people privately.
Yeah,
right?
I do. So I work with people one-on-one because I think that it allows you to hold space for someone and for them to feel that safety and that connection and that support that they might need. I still work with people in group settings and in corporates, but I think one-to-one, you're able to really get to know the person you're working with. And, you know, when they can feel supported and held by you and you build that relationship, it allows openings and healings to a different level.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to talk about today. I think people need that opening and need that space to really connect themselves. And I see more and more people, you know, you probably see the same thing, more and more people, it's on the news, it's now everywhere, with mental health problems, anxiety, panic attack, depression. What would you suggest to someone listening to us who is in one of those situations, like who have mental health problems, who have depression problem, anxiety, panic attack, and who would like to go more on a holistic way of healing themselves or, you know, releasing that energy? What would you suggest them? Like, what would be the best start? Because I think people are having a hard time to start. You know, they don't know where to start. Like, shall I use a, you know, meditation app? Shall I do that? Shall I go to yoga? How was your experience? Like, with your own experience, what would you suggest to someone who's having, you know, psychological problems? Not to say something like don't go to a psychologist or something, you know, people could choose that as well. And there are more and more people who are choosing the holistic path, who, you know, don't want to get prescriptive medicine and who want a more holistic and more natural approach. What would you suggest to those people?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, first of all, it's great to recognize that more people are looking to go down the holistic route and explore those options. I would say the first thing to do is just recognize where you're at and allow yourself to accept that, because I think that more people are able to talk about their mental health now and talk that, you know, about struggles they may be having, and know that they don't have to put on a brave face and carry on like everyone is, because you
don't fake it until you make it. Stop faking it.
That's it.
You won't make it.
This is it, exactly. So it's like, you know, it's about taking care of yourself, and the first step is to accept where you are and know that that's okay, and be able to talk about that honestly, and then reach out and get support. And now, whatever that looks like to you is going to be dependent on, you know, what you're drawn to. Because like you mentioned, there are so many ways to get that support now. So, you know, with meditation, some people are like, oh, I can't sit still and switch my mind off. I can't meditate. And I was like, meditation doesn't have to be sitting still. It can be a walking meditation. It can be a moving meditation of some sort. There's, you know, different types of ways to do that.
Breathing meditation.
Breathing meditation. That's exactly it. So it's like, you know, all you can do is, first of all, is pause and connect with your breath. And it's coming back to self. Because a lot of the time when we're starting to feel this, you know, when we're out of balance and this stress and the anxiety, it's because maybe we've become disconnected from ourselves.
And maybe don't wait until things crash, because I see that happening as well. Like they go on and on and on. I think understanding that if you don't take time to connect with yourself, to face yourself and check in, you know, like it's as if, how I see this, it's as if you just leave your house and don't do any cleaning.
Yeah.
And then the house is left like that with the dishes and everything, like, you know, dirty, and then you go on and on and on doing the same thing and don't do any cleaning. It's the same thing with us. It's like you keep on thinking and thinking and thinking. You keep on running and running and running. You keep on staying in action the whole time. You don't stop to just clear and clean and, you know, to just connect with that, mellow, or, you stay in the shallow and you don't connect with that, deep, intuitive side of you, and then things crash.
And until you're forced to, because you have to. And that's exactly what happened to me. People get close to burnout, or they reach burnout, and the overwhelm becomes too much. And I found that's what happened to me, because I many years ago when I was working in corporate, I was thinking, oh, well, no one else is, having problems. No one else is struggling. I just need to carry on. I can get through this. All this responsibility, I've got to do it. It's part of my job. And I've got to do this, and I've got to do this, rather than saying, whoa, it's too much. And even when I did reach out and say, oh, I need a bit of support, they're like, oh, we haven't got support. You've got to carry on. And so I did, rather than listening to myself. And so it got to the point that it started to affect my health. And I was starting to feel unwell. I wasn't sleeping properly. I wasn't taking care of myself. It was affecting my relationships. And that's when it was like, okay, something has to change. And that's when I took that time out to reassess. And I actually stepped away from the corporate world and took a break.
Before that, I want to stay there.
Yeah.
Because if there is anybody who's listening who hasn't, who hasn't taken the time to stop and go within or do meditation or whatever, or who don't understand the importance of it, or who is kind of like about to crash but don't know about it, like, your experience, my experience. I think the first thing maybe to tell those people is that we all are in that, like we all have been in that state. Like, it's not just you who's experiencing, the others as well, but some people fake it better than the others. Some people don't. And I think it's very important to kind of like sense what's happening before it's happening. So what would you tell about, like, what are the clues? Because if you asked me, the clue was kind of like this emptiness, this void inside of me. And then it changed. So my story is a bit alike. I was someone who did not ever stop. So in my 20s, until I was probably like 24, 25, stopping was weird, like sitting and stopping. I thought I was missing something. That, like in your 20s, you're like, I have to be there, I have to go there, I have to, this whole action, and sports and this. And literally I was feeling this void. And when I was alone, I would literally sense kind of like a vibration of
Gosh,
like that was the sign for me. Maybe if we can give people some clues about the signs, what's happening before the crash, maybe we can lead them into meditation or breath work before they crash. What do you think are the clues? Like, my clue was an empty void. Like, if you're feeling an emptiness and you don't feel satisfied, you're about to crash. You need to stop and you need to go within. Or if you, like me, hear a vibration, especially before you go to sleep or when you wake up or during the day, when you're around with people, like what used to happen to me was when I was around people, at one point I would be like, I want to just get out. It was too much. And that was like literally a vibration of, scream inside of me. And then after I started breath work, after I started deeply connecting with myself, I realized that it was a real scream from my inner self. So what was the clues you experienced, and what clues can we give to our listeners?
So I had no idea how to be still and do nothing. So when you talk about always doing something and being busy, for me, I didn't know what stillness was. I always had to be doing something. And if I wasn't doing something, even when I was physically sitting still, my mind was racing. I was constantly thinking about something that had happened or something that was going to happen. I couldn't switch off. This is also impacting my sleep. So I couldn't sleep properly.
So one sign, not sleeping properly. One sign of something is wrong.
Something is wrong. And so that then impacted me in other ways. Like, I would have difficulty in making decisions. I would be second guessing myself all the time rather than being confident and sure.
A great second sign. Like if you're finding it hard to make decisions.
Absolutely. And then it was impacting my relationships. So I found I was tense and stressed. So with people I was close to, and even colleagues, I'd be short or snappy, and it's almost like the joy had been missing from my life, and it had happened so slowly. I wasn't really aware of
and
it.
the third clue, relationships. And I think fourth is joy missing, like fulfillment and joy missing, and you're kind of like,
Yeah. It's like, when was the last time I just relaxed and had some fun? I was laughing without thinking about things, or, you know, having to do this and feeling a pressure or a responsibility. So
maybe the fifth is disconnecting from the person you were when you were a child. Because when we're a child, we have a more functional breathing, we're more, you know, natural, and, you know, we're healthier, and we're more connected with ourselves. And then eventually we disconnect.
Well, that's exactly it, being disconnected from self. And I found it in the sense I was disconnected from my body. So I was living in my head. So, you know, it's like my head was walking around and my body was following me. It's almost like, you know, I had to reconnect with myself in some way, to then listen to the whispers and, you know, the screams in your case that were there, and listen. What is this telling me? I need to slow down. My body needs something else. You know, I can't sleep, and I'm not able to communicate with the people I love very well. So this is not a good thing.
So I think if you don't hear that scream, that's like in all of us, I think there is kind of like a scream in ourselves. If you don't hear that scream, then you start having physical symptoms.
Yes, because
then your body starts reacting to it. You know, I believe all of the physical symptoms are just good signs. They're not bad. They're just signs our body is trying to, you know, wake up, you know.
Yeah, little
just
messages.
Take care of myself. Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
You're on the wrong path.
Yeah, it's like our little inner guide saying, you know, it's and what I like to believe, it's our intuition, it's our inner knowing.
The body's never wrong.
The body's never wrong, but we don't listen to it, or we don't trust it. You know, if we do hear it, we're like, oh no, I've got to carry on, and we dismiss it. We don't listen. We don't trust it. So we then start to lose that trust in ourselves, which then reinforces the disconnection. So it's, you know, we're moving further and further away from ourselves, rather than stopping and going, okay, how can I support myself with this? What will help me sleep a little more? What will help me rebuild those relationships? What will help me support myself and bring more joy back? And for me, I had to physically take myself out of a situation for a while and be in nature and reconnect with nature, have my feet on the ground, and start to reconnect with things that did bring me joy, my passions. And, you know, I look back and it's like I started to live life again, because I had got into a routine where I was just working, going home, working, going home. And like, that's all my life was, you know, that was my cycle. And no wonder it wasn't bringing me any joy, because I wasn't looking after myself and feeding my passions, like doing things to make me happy. And it's like, where was the balance? There was none. So if there was no balance in my life, it's reflecting what's going on within me.
Yeah, I think that's what you said is a good start. I mean, especially for people who would like to take the first step. Maybe just taking a few minutes, just a few minutes a day to think about, what do I love the most? What do I love doing? Like, what would I like my life to become? Or, you know, what do I enjoy doing? What would give me more joy? Or what would, you know, give me more fulfillment, more pleasure? You know, how would I feel more alive? And start writing about those.
Yes,
you
I was
know,
going to say journaling.
and then start
Absolutely.
looking at those. Like, how can you live a life aligned with those? Like, those are your values. Those are who you are. You know, and that's, I think that's kind of like sitting in the heart of healing. The healing process. So if anybody would ask me, like, what's the basic rule of healing, you would probably say the same thing, going back to our roots. That's why we started breath work. That's why we started meditation, or that's how we got back to our roots from where we were.
It's always coming back to self.
Yeah, so it's kind of like remembering who you truly are inside. I sometimes tell to my students, you know, who you are before the world started telling you who you were or who you should be, you know? And it's such a process because of the world we are in, and people get conditioned the whole time, especially the media, what's talked about, what's taught to the masses. Would you also kind of like, I'm trying to find formulas so people could, you know, take a step. Would you say something like, because I would, that I'm going to ask you the same thing. Would you say something like, if you want to go back to your roots and if you want to start your healing process, stop watching videos and news or whatever the masses watch, or stop reading, you know, things masses read, because it's like, if it's to the masses, it's always going to be polarized and sensational. I was in the news business many years ago, TV business and news business. So I know how the news are written. So it's like, the more sensational, the more polarized it gets, the more it is read by the masses. So the masses are not interested in balance or wisdom or truth. You know, they're more interested in wow and the rah-rah and wah, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So just beware of that, and just because that's going to lead to a conditioning. That's going to lead to a fantasy. It's like people think in the news somebody is bad and evil, and in the other news somebody is nice and angelic, and there's no such thing like that.
Well, this is it. I 100% agree with you. And I feel like the news, it's almost, you know, the information that's coming through for us is what they want us to know, you know, what's being reported to us. And then if we're watching the news and it's repeated on you know, several times a day, and we're constantly receiving that information in, it's reinforcing the same information to us. So I personally have stopped watching the news and reading anything for about 6 years now. And not to say that I'm ignorant to it, I still get my news, but I choose when I want to listen to it or, you know, read about it. It's not that I have it on all the time and I'm receiving that information all of the time. I don't get updates on my phone or anything like that. So it's about taking back that control of it. I completely agree with you. You know, if you want to know something, choose to go and read about that or learn about that, but don't have that information coming in all the time, because that's the other thing that's happening right now, that we're overwhelmed with things coming in, particularly over the last 2 years, and everything's online. You know, we're accessible all the time as well, so we've got information coming out.
Yeah,
to
maybe
us.
saying something like that, making a statement like, if everybody's speaking about the same thing, there's something wrong about it. If masses are speaking about one thing as if it's the truth, just, you know, beware and just check that and do your research.
Yes.
Yeah, I think what leads people into health issues are mainly like conditioning of the mind. I mean, especially like the polarized thoughts people have. And the conditioning comes from the polarized news and, you know, the news on the channel, I mean, the masses. So I'm kind of like at the edge, but because I don't even remember when I watched news or stuff for the masses. It's been like forever now.
Yeah.
And I made a conscious decision, if I'm going to, like you know, if I'm going to learn about something, I will read it in several different, you know, places and then research about it. I think the problem is people believing the first thing they hear. You know, it's like thinking if everybody's speaking about it, it must be true. How do you know, you know?
It's allowing yourself to make your own mind up.
Yeah, and the reason we're talking about this is because what you become what you believe in. You know, maybe people are wondering, why the heck are they talking about what we are watching?
Yeah.
But the thing is, we become what we believe in. We become what we listen to. We become and act according to what we are conditioned. And it's kind of like this whole programming happening. I don't know if our listeners are seeing that, but I see it obviously. There is this programming happening over and over again, as if we are computers and we're getting programmed. And there are some, you know, I don't know if you watched the Netflix series Lost in Space. If you haven't, watch it, but watch it as if there are robots and there are people, you know, are lost in space, and there are the good robots, just one, and then there are the robots, and the robots, the bad ones, are programmed and they are sick. And that's why they are trying to kill humans. But then there is one good robot which is free. So if you watch the whole series on, you know, just looking at it on what's happening around the world right now, like millions of people being programmed like these robots trying to kill and aggressive and sick and anxious or whatever. And there are those who free themselves from the programming and who are healthy and sane. So it's why we're talking about this, is because Because if you're programmed, you're insane. You're programmed to become insane. So if you want sanity, you need to move out of the programming. And I think breath work is one of the most powerful tools to move us beyond the programming and just, just clear out the whole programming.
Open everything up.
I would like to now come to that. What would you like to say about that? Like, how does breath work just kill the whole program and smash it out? Like,
it's about unlearning, right? It's unlearning everything, like you've talked about the conditioning from when we're little, growing up, and everything that comes from outside in society and expectations that we have, everything we've learned over the years that defines who we are to a certain extent. So when you can come back to yourself and connect with your breath, it's about connecting with that inner knowing, that inner self again. And it is undoing and unlearning all of that. It's an opening to who you really are and allowing yourself to connect with that. So it takes a while maybe for some to practice. I think it's like any kind of muscle that you're training, to keep practicing, keep going with it, because it will continue to open up and strengthen that inner connection and that intuition and just who you are. And that's where it's unlearning, and it's almost like your eyes open and you're like, oh wow.
Yeah,
okay.
as you say this, I have a vision in my mind. I don't know if you've seen it. Was in the social media. I saw it in the social media as well. There is this picture of a lady coming out of a huge rock, cracking the rock, and wow, So isn't breathwork experience just like that? Especially the first few sessions. It's like you're in this inside the rock, you don't even know about your conditioning, and then with life force energy, because it's pure life, it's the most natural thing we can connect with. The rock cracks and you're like, I'm free again.
Is exactly it. And I have experienced it. Like, it takes me right back to that. It's like the first time I was like, wow. I was like, I have never connected with a stillness like this before. And I'm like, how can I feel like this from breathing? And that's what first got me, curious. And the more I did it, the more openings. And I love this vision of this woman coming out of the rock and like going, yes. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's like releasing that shell, releasing that conditioning.
Getting out of your shell, actually.
It. And just
kind of like
being free. And, that's the first time I think I felt really grounded in who I am. And it's almost like I just felt this stillness and this peace and this confidence in, this is who I am. This feels good. And it's like almost like that. It's like the peace that just came over me. And I was like, right, I have to know more about this and I have to share it. And like that was the moment I decided to train in breath work and, share this with as many people as possible.
Yeah, one more question, because that's what I experienced. And sometimes I ask it to teachers and my students. Do you realize you also changed genetically? Like how you looked, and like how I looked in my 20s is very different than how I look now. Not like I'm aging, but like my features and like literally how my face was much more stressed, and I could feel it like this, in my jaw. When I look at my pictures in my 20s, I'm younger, but my energy is lower, and I'm, you can feel that small and stressed. And now I look at my pictures now, even though I'm getting older, maybe it's me, but I look more shining and happy. And like my whole face changed. And I can see that in my students as well, or anyone who practices breath work. I can even see it in people who uses breath up every day. Like they send us some pictures, like some people healed their eczema, like their skin problems. Some people healed their asthma, just doing breath work by themselves. That's like almost, as a teacher, it's kind of like if you told me that 5 years ago, before we have built the app, it'd be like, don't be ridiculous, it's impossible. It is possible,
It is.
And they sent me some pictures of how their skin looked, how their faces looked. That's just 5 months ago.
Yeah, amazing.
How did that happen for you?
It actually really did, but I didn't believe it straight away. People were telling me. And I was like, really? Really? And it's only when I really believed it. And then, like you said, looking back, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. And I feel it in myself. But I first heard it from other people. They're saying, oh, my gosh, you look really well. Or you're like glowing and you look really well. I was like, really? really.
Your face looks different.
Your face looks different. Some people have actually said that, and like, really? And it's the more I would do it, and then I really like owned that, and I was like, it's true. And I look back now, and I completely agree with you. And it is, like you said, that daily practice as well. Like if you can incorporate this, even if it's a couple of minutes of connecting to yourself, connecting to your breath every day, that is where you're going to see the real change. Because yes, you can go and have these sessions and attend classes, and they will be powerful, and you will feel amazing, and it will support you. But you're going to see the real life changes if you can build that into your day to day.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just use one of the sessions, practice one session after another. Yeah. Yeah, and people sometimes make jokes about it. People are using all these skin products and this and that, and then some women are asking, "What are you using for your skin?"
Yes.
I'm like, I couldn't care less. I'm just breathing.
Yes.
If women knew about it, like if women knew just by daily 5-minute, 10-minute breath work, just because they have more oxygen in the cells regenerate faster. How their skin would change, I think we would have millions of people.
That's it, exactly. We need to get the word out there. Yes, it's true.
One day we will. I mean, magazines are after that.
It's going to happen. I see it. It's going to happen.
Okay, one last question. It's been a hell of a ride with you. Yeah, thank you for the conversation. So one last question. What would be the one thing you would love humans to know and understand before you die?
Oh, wow. What a question. The one thing that I would want humans to know and understand before I die.
And one thing you would like to see them get, wow, humans got this.
Yeah, I guess that like this life is here for living, like to be present with yourself and really live your life the best way you can for you, because I've experienced it myself and I see it a lot of the time. People get caught up in things they should be doing or that they have to do and society expects or family expects or whoever expects, and forget about living life and enjoying life and participating in life and showing up every day for themselves. And that starts with being really present, and it's going to come back again to, connecting with your breath, but connecting with yourself. So about allowing yourself to be really present and showing up for yourself in the best way that you can every day. Participate in life, show up, and be yourself as much as you can every single day.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think I believe we all have a mission to fulfill. And I think this one question serves to that mission, because it's like when you ask someone, what would you like to see happening before you die? It's kind of like, what's your mission in this lifetime? Because we don't want to, see the same thing. We all have our thing. And what you're saying is as simple as, I would like to see more humans understand that the best life is a life lived according to your rules, not the world's rules, according to your thing, what you want, what your heart wants, not what others want. And it sounds simple, but it's the hardest thing in life. I think for humans, it's the hardest lesson, because we are so conditioned, especially in this century. It is the hardest lesson. It's the last step of, I think it's the kind of like the highest level of consciousness as well. To step out and live your life the way you want it. It's big.
It is. It's okay to follow your heart.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
know that it's okay to
that.
follow your heart, because we get caught in our head. So come back to your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. This was
Beautiful.
great.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you all for listening, and I'll see you and in the next episode.
See
you. It's fine.